thank you so much for watching, listening. Totally stoked that you're here. Of course, you want to subscribe because we have one, amazing content, and two, amazing guests. So I get to introduce to you today, Shawn Bolz. Thank you,
Hey,
Shawn.
I'm so glad to be back.
Totally stoked that you're here. You are the bomb diggity. Super, super stoked that you're here. So, Shawn, I'm going to ask you just kind of like not the standard questions,
Okay.
kind of, but also more like so people can kind of get to know you a little bit,
Yeah.
not just what you do, but more like who you are. So, what do you like to do to relax?
I'm a gamer. I play video games.
Yeah,
I
which
do.
ones?
Well, I have this new thing. I'll just say this is called Steam Deck. So PC gaming
Hmm.
has moved to handheld. And so I'm playing stuff on there. There's a game called God of War. Probably not the best game. So like if there's kids out there, it's not a kid's game, but there's games like God of War and there's a lot of games called role-playing games.
Mm,
And so because I could play them by myself on a plane or anywhere
yeah.
else for long form.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would be like the geeky gamer YouTube channel
Hmm.
guy if I could, but
Hmm.
God has other calling and plans on my life.
Any VR? Do you do any of
I
that?
do VR sometimes. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm really interested in Web 3.0 and the whole meta space.
Hmm.
So I mean, I have some stuff going on there. I have like some stuff in the sand world and
Hmm.
in the Gala world and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm just experimenting.
Hmm. But it's fun. That's kind of
It's
how you
fun.
relax.
Yeah, that's how I relax. My girls are gamers too, which is cute. We have to keep a time limit on it.
Mhm.
I can't talk the time limit on it because with little kids, they're 7 and 9.
Yeah.
Little kids, they need like a lot less space for it. But it's been really fun.
Hmm. Kind of a nice way to bond a little bit.
Absolutely. So much
Mhm.
fun in Minecraft for,
Hmm.
like we have whole worlds built in
Mhm.
Minecraft together. It's really cute.
That's totally cool. And does your wife dig that too?
She's not a gamer. My wife is a farmer,
Mhm.
and organic urban farmer. So she actually loves permaculture. And she's now an influencer on social media for permaculture space and
What's
especially urban gardening.
permaculture?
It's kind of beyond organic. It's like you use zero pesticides or chemicals of any kind, and you grow your food to have food stability and food control. And there's a whole community out there that's doing this. It's not the big ag. It's all the little guys who are bringing the farmers markets and that kind
Still
of stuff.
keep dirt though?
And so yeah, we keep dirt, but you would never use anything. Like she's just had pill bugs ravish her garden this week, and she's like figured out with her other friends online. They crowdsource each other and they figure out like what do we do because we've never had this problem because we live in a different space than we used to garden.
Yeah.
So she's like, what's happening? And
Hmm.
so yeah, so that's her passion. So she goes out and she's with God in the garden.
Yeah. Kind of Eden idea,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
That's
It's really
cool.
awesome, but it's a beautiful garden. People can follow her. It's Dream Big Urban Farm.
Mm,
She's on all the socials.
that's cool. What does she grow?
Everything. Like we have-
Flowers too?
Yeah, flowers too. So she loves just all of it, all the beauty space. And she loves helping the average person who says, I don't have a green thumb. Like everybody says, I don't have a green thumb.
Mhm.
It's just you don't have an education. Like all of our grandparents gardened, all of them. Like everybody had a garden. Someone had
Yeah.
a farm in your family. You just didn't know it.
Yeah.
And so as soon as she taps people into like their heritage, they start to realize, wow, like before we turned our backyards and front yards into total green space, which is actually useless, everybody had a garden.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to get everyone to grow. All of our friends grow gardens now, or do vertical growing, or do whatever they can.
Mhm.
It's really cute.
She do anything with worms?
She loves worms, and it's really funny because our girls that have no fear of like worms and slugs. They
Yeah.
both have a pet snail. They're just out there all the time playing with lizards and snakes and bugs and whatever they can find. But my wife, she wants to grow a worm farm. We have a really good compost.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I have a friend that grows worms.
Yeah.
She's pretty excited about
I
it.
am not out there with her. Like I haul around 50-pound bags all the time of whatever it is, fertilizer, whatever it is. And I hate the fact that our car smells like fertilizer all the time because she's always hauling. We have this big old truck, but it's a SUV truck, so it has an inside that we all smell.
That's funny. But your girls, they dig all that too.
They
though.
love it. They absolutely love to garden. It's so cool because they're the gamers and they're the gardeners. It's really cute.
The GGs.
The GGs.
I like it.
We'll get
I
a
like it.
T-shirt.
I like it. So you still live in LA?
I do. So during the pandemic, we moved to kind of more of a ranch area. And so we sold our property, and it was a really good time to sell because obviously, and we bought at a really good time to buy too in that area because it wasn't as hot as it is now. And so it's kind of this, it's called Canyon Country. It's right by Disney Studios, which they have a Disney up in Santa Clarita too. So it's all ranch, and it's a pretty historic place. It has like some God history in it, which is really cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And talk me on some of the God stuff. Like when you were super little, how'd you experience God?
Well, my parents, like your parents, I mean, love Jesus, and they got saved before I was born, which is nice, through my brother's passing away. and they were all in. He died of leukemia, and they had an angelic visitation, and they weren't those kinds of people. My dad's a engineer in the Air Force. Like he actually is retired, of course, but he was a aerospace engineer, led a large section of the Air Force engineering departments, and so he had that engineering mindset, which I haven't met very many engineers who think about the supernatural a lot, but
Yeah.
it doesn't. I have met some, but it's just not as common. And so the fact that he was really open to the fact that God could have healed my son if I had understood, and if he wanted, if I could have connected that way, and also that their only comfort came from God after their son died, and so they got radically into the things of the Holy Spirit during the Jesus People movement,
Oh,
and they ended up meeting John Wimber in a grocery store, who was the leader of the Vineyard movement, and which is one of the kind of main spots. He was a righteous brother. He was
Yeah.
came out of the music industry and got a Fuller Seminary degree and started a church, and it became a worldwide movement. And my parents joined from his original home group. And so we were raised around that for about 5 or 6 years, because we had to move because of my dad's career. But it put a foundation as a family. My parents had 2 to 3 home groups a week, and we just had to ride along because there's no way to stay home all the time. So we had to do our homework there and hang out with the people. And my parents would always call us up at ministry time and say, "What's God showing you? What does God want to do tonight?" And they would include us in the Holy Spirit time. But we'd have a little private Bible study as a family every week. And so they've just put a foundation of the Word inside of us. Because my dad was always concerned about the Vineyard, because he's like, it doesn't have enough Bible, although I think they do. But it's just,
Sure.
it needs more Bible.
Yeah.
And so my dad just put it in us, like a Baptist, just put it deep in us,
Mm.
and just the love for the Word. And at the same time, as they were seeing a lot of healing. So I grew up seeing it, but when I was around 14, 15, I began to adopt that culture as mine as well. I never had a falling away period, but I did have a period of is this available for everybody? So I had to figure that out. So I was I remember there was a flood in California all the way down to Tijuana, and a friend of mine, she said, we have to do something. So we just raised a bunch of supplies in a huge 15-passenger van, and 3 of us went down, drove down through the storm into Tijuana to the dump, just the first dump we found, and we found out that it was completely flooded and nobody had anything.
Wow.
So we stopped at a medical clinic, which happened to be Christian. We didn't have a plan. And when we were there, we just gave out supplies with them and helped people and loved on people and prayed for people. And people were getting healed. People were getting saved. We didn't speak Spanish. They didn't speak English. And God showed up. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. I'm going to show up in some relief zones. I'm going to go to a war zone. That was my plan, is to go to a war zone.
Yeah.
I'm going to go somewhere scary. I mean, you know all about this. It's where somewhere scary does the gospel work there too? Does what I'm seeing in the church and these conferences work there too? So I feel like I became a spiritual missionary tourist for the next 15 years, where I'd go to all the war zones I could. I'd go to, when communism was falling, I went to all the countries I could.
Yep.
And I saw the same gospel work and the same gifts of the Holy Spirit work in these places, but it made much more impact in a way, because you could see it so visibly in the darkness. That light shone so much brighter than sometimes in the Western world. So I became completely addicted to see God move. And I never thought I would stay in the Western world. I always thought I would just move somewhere into Africa or into one of the war zones. And then God called me to the entertainment industry. And that was super, super bizarre, because at the time I was living in Kansas City, part of Mike Bickle's House of Prayer.
Yeah.
And even before that, I was there for 12 years. I was always trying to get away. I loved them so much, but I was not a prayer guy. It was not I want to be in the prayer room guy.
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out where's my exit strategy. And God kept calling me to California, back to where I grew up, but not in LA. I never grew up in LA. And so he kept calling me back there. And I was just why would I go back there? And he started to give me a heart for these entertainers and this spiritual third world country where people are emaciated. There's not much outreach. There's not much happening in the spirit.
Yeah.
And in some ways there's beautiful things happening, but it's so small. And so I remember when he was calling me to it, finally, a friend of mine, Heidi Baker, I'm sure you know Heidi Baker, I love her. And she's like, I feel like God's calling you to LA, to the spiritually poor, the poor in spirit.
Wow. And
it's just like what we're doing in Africa, but it's another third world in the spirit. And that's what God had showed me. So we moved out there too. So that's kind of grew up going after. My parents had never been to another country, so the fact that I kept going was strange to them. And then the fact that I was in dangerous places, like my parents, could never tell them where I was going, because if I was like, I'm going to go to North Korea right now, they would, which I did, they'd be terrified. I'm going to go to Malawi, to the war zone right now. I'm going to go to Cuba when it was illegal for Americans to go. I went to all these places. I went with Brother Andrew to smuggle Bibles into Russia. I did strange things, and I only did most of them one time, but it was such a great experience. It was like an imprint on my spirit for how God's available.
Yeah. Yeah. That's completely cool. Love all of that. Totally can relate to it, vibe with it too. So, hey, I just want to thank you for interview, and thank you for watching, for subscribing. Hit the little notification bell right there. And here's a question for you to answer. What country would you most like to visit? Right? What would you say? How would you answer that?
I don't know. Like today, because I've been to almost every country I've ever wanted to visit.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd like to go back to China
Hmm.
and just see what God would do
Mm-hmm.
because it's so messed up right now.
Yeah. Any particular area?
I don't know. Like maybe around Taiwan or like not that Taiwan's China, but around the border.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just to see what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
or
On
somewhere
border
where
of Hong Kong?
yeah, Hong
Shenzhen, all
Kong,
that?
so yeah, that whole area.
Huh.
Just because of and even where the border of North Korea and the different areas over there
Yep.
too.
Yep.
Just to see what's going on, see what the believers are doing,
Yeah. Huh.
see what God's doing.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, it'd be kind of fun.
Something good to think about. All right, here's your joke as we finish. So this guy, he accidentally confused the lipstick for his wife and gave her the glue stick, and now she's not talking to him.
I actually think that's
Stupid. Thanks again.
funny.